All right, ladies, welcome to this episode of the Joyful Scaling Podcast. I'm here with my new friend, Melissa Houston. She is a CPA who took all of her education and experience to become a financial strategist for CEOs. And ladies, you know, I'm all about strategy. That is going to be what makes the difference in your business and ultimately your life. Simply put, Melissa helps successful business owners like you increase your profit margins so you keep more money in your pocket. I love that. She is a prolific writer for Forbes and the host of the Business Society podcast, and she's the creator of the Business Society community on Facebook. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Judy. I am so happy to be here with you today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on this Canadian holiday. I really value
Canadian Turkey Day.
Well, it's such a blessing to have met you through the Advance, of which, for anyone listening that doesn't know, it is an amazing network group founded by two powerhouse trailblazers, namely Kelly Roach and Laura Meyer. So shameless plug to those ladies because it's a unique community. If you're not there, you need to get plugged in. But Melissa, I really love your story. You were $100,000 in debt. You dug yourself out. So before we dive into KPIs and creating wealth, I would love for you to share how you turned that situation around for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely an interesting part of my life, especially considering I'm a CPA. I've studied all things debt, personal finance. I understand, the ramifications of getting in debt. I understand how much it costs to be in debt, and I still chose to go down that avenue. So it was definitely something I would not recommend to people and would definitely not repeat. It's part of my story. And what happened is that I had gotten to a point where I was so out of touch with what I wanted out of life, just being a mom and, being in a good job and, doing the things, we all get busy in our lives. Right. Mm-hmm. And as much as I knew that I wanted to get out there and, do my entrepreneurial thing, I just felt like if I left my job, which was like the golden ticket, then it was me being ungrateful. It was me being, not appreciating what I had or whatever. So I went into this state of denial and this total desire of consumption, this personal consumption took over me. And, it's crazy how you can spend $100,000 in 1 year, but I managed to do it. And I realized at the very end that it did not make me feel any better. And it left me with this huge gap in our personal net worth, right? So I hid a lot of the debt from my husband. He was not very happy with me when he found out. It was definitely an emotional time, but hindsight is 2020. I did my work. I did my reflection. I got out of the debt, changed my spending habits, and took the chance and took the risk and started my own business. I've never been happier.
That's excellent. And, what you said, so many of that resonated with me. So I just want to lightly touch on it. The fact that, what do I really want?
Yeah.
I take my one-on-ones through that exercise. And it's always surprising how many, when I say, okay, now what do you want? One of my clients, she's about my age, 55. And she's like, well, I know I don't want to keep working this hard forever. So, she's a real estate broker. So she's like, I want to get myself out of the work really. And it's not an easy thing to really take the time to say, gosh, what do I really want? Right.
It's really hard for a lot of women because we spend so much time giving to others that we forget about checking in with ourselves and, really figuring out what you want. But if you're at the stage in your life where you're like, listen, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, this is a perfect time to start thinking about, not just, what you want to do, but how you're going to get there financially as well.
I love that. All right. So let's dive into the financial goodies. Okay. Because most of my listeners are doing really well in business. I mean, at least they have hit the six figures or just about there. And they really are looking to take it to closer to the $500,000 and $1 million mark. So let's start with KPIs. It is so important that we have benchmarks and that we actually know our numbers. Actually, before we jump into KPIs, I want to address something that I believe you agree with me on. We can't rely on our wonderful bookkeepers and accountants when it comes
Absolutely not.
to analysis. Tell us why.
Absolutely not. So typically what happens is when you engage with a bookkeeper and an accountant, often I find most of my clients feel that their accountant is not giving them what they need, but they don't understand that they didn't engage with the accountant to get their specific needs met. What they engage with their accountant is typically the accountant looks at the books and gives them feedback on what's going on, completes the corporate tax return, and that's it. They see them next year, right? So that's what you've engaged with an accountant. And then with a bookkeeper is typically their job is to take your transactions in your business. So that would be your receipts, plus any invoices that you've issued and cash disbursements and payments that you've received and all that stuff. They enter it into your bookkeeping system, was typically like, your software accounting program, like QuickBooks or whatever. And then that's it, right? So as long as they're doing that accurately, they are fulfilling their role. So what happens during, the entire year, if your accountant's not looking at your books and your bookkeeper is just, inputting the information, who's looking at your books? You need to be involved in what's going on in your business. And as a successful business owner, it's absolutely imperative to understand what's going on in your business financially, because there's not one thing that you do in your business that does not affect your finances.
Wow. And that I'd love you to say that last sentence again, if you remember it, because that's ginormous. Yeah. Would you repeat that? It's worth repeating.
There is absolutely nothing in your business that does not affect your profit line, which is your bottom line, and your finances.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Let's talk about KPIs, key performance indicators. What does all that mean? Like, why?
Okay. So, when you have certain goals in your business, you want to measure them against something, right? So that's when KPIs come into play. So there's a ton of different ways and different things you can measure in your business for KPIs. Now, when you're speaking in finance terms, KPIs are numbers that you're going to monitor to ensure that you're meeting your financial goals. So quite often it's your profit margins, your gross margins. So you're really looking at all your profit margins in business. Now, if you have additional needs, like you want to understand how quickly it takes for a client to pay an invoice, you would monitor those KPIs. Or if you are looking at how many hours you log per client that you deal with, like how much time you consume, you would monitor those KPIs and make sure that, you're keeping it a really tight average, because if you've got clients that are taking too much of your time, you need to correct that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can measure KPIs. It's going to depend on what you are looking for at that time in your business. Now, your KPIs can change over time. Once you've got problems under control and you feel like, you need to monitor them, but not as closely as other issues that you may want to, keep a closer eye on. So KPIs are definitely excellent ways to measure the progress that you're making in your business towards your goals.
Okay, awesome. And so let's say here we are nearing the end of 2021. Mm-hmm. And let's say we have, I always encourage my clients to have one high ticket signature offer. And then later, once that's rocking and rolling, then if you want to, you can do the back end and do a course or a membership or something like that. So let's use that scenario. Let's say that your goal is next year to go from 300K to 500K. Yeah. Like, can you walk us through what that would look like in that scenario where you have one program? Let's say its value is $25,000.
Okay. So I absolutely love this question, because I find so often business owners don't look at each offer that they are offering and understand how profitable each offer is, right? Because if you're not making a profit on the offer, it doesn't make sense to continue to offer it, right? So when you've got more than one service, which I think is what you were asking me, right? So if you're doing that high ticket program, plus now you want to add another service, you need to monitor that progress. So the way I typically take my clients through that is, you create a financial plan for not just that specific offer, but I also do it as the business as a whole, but we'll focus on the specific offer just to answer your question specifically. So you take, like, it's called an operating forecast. So that's, technical accounting terms. And I typically call it a financial plan, so it doesn't scare people away.
Okay.
So you take the calendar year, or, whatever time period you're measuring. So for 2022, you would take January to December, and you would break down each and every month what your goal was to sell for these courses, right? But it's not enough to just look at what you need to sell to reach your goals. You also want to think about how much profit you're making in that program, right? So you need to track all the expenses that go into creating this program. A lot of business owners don't track their own personal time it takes to create a program. You also need to track, if you've got an assistant who's helping you, how much time it's taking them, how much you've paid copywriters, your funnels, setting up funnels, like whatever you need to create to sustain this program, you need to track these expenses. Facebook ads are a huge one. So, you've got a ton of expenses that go behind these online courses. Mm-hmm. And then you need to track how you're bringing these customers in, how much expenses are going out to gain these customers, and see if you're operating at a profit or a loss. Because quite often what happens with online courses is the expense of getting those out there, especially in the beginning, exceed what you're bringing in, right? So you can expect to take a little bit of a loss at the beginning, but if you're continually taking a loss, you're going to know this because you're monitoring each and every month what's going on in that program, because you've created that forecast. So at the end of the month, let's say we're January 2022, and we want to say, okay, did we meet our January 2022 goals? You run all your financial reports, you compare your operating budget for January to what actually happened, and then you do that analysis. Did I meet my goals? Did I meet my revenue goals? Did I blow the budget in certain expenses, like Facebook ads are a huge one? And you do that analysis each and every month to make sure that you are getting traction against your goals. And if you're coming up short, you figure out what's going on so that you can correct it early, so that it's not a money leak going throughout your business for an entire year without noticing it, right? So being on top of your finances is essential to make sure that you're running a tight ship. And the reason why you want to run a tight ship is because you want to keep that money for you. Right. And when you keep that money for you, you're increasing your net worth.
Right. I love that. And we're going to get into that a little bit more in just a bit. That was a lot of great information. And I can tell you, I'll be very honest with you, Melissa. I was raised poor, and I think I've used that as an excuse. We came from very humble beginnings. So, I was taught all the things that are the bad money mindset, which over the years, of course, I have, I've overcome a lot, but there's a lot more, I'll be honest, that I'm still working through. Mm-hmm. And frankly, because of my upbringing, I've kind of been one of them, one of those entrepreneurs that doesn't, or hasn't until recently, the past 2 years, really looking at the books. It was almost scary for me to even open up the business checking account years ago to say, oh my gosh, what's in it? And a lot of times I'm happily surprised, but it was just that. It was a surprise instead of being intentional in looking at it. So can we go a little bit deeper? You mentioned a few, but what are the important KPIs that our listeners need to track? And most of them are service-based businesses.
Profit. Track your profit. That's definitely a KPI, and it should not come unnoticed. And I really want to address the fact that you were honest enough to say that you've definitely had your own money mindset issues that are holding, or may have held you back, and could possibly be holding you back right now. And I think it's really important to address that, because it is so common. A lot of, I would say 99.9% of my clients, when they come to me, they're fear-based. It's like, I don't want to look at my books. I don't want to know what's going on. I'm afraid to find out. So you're fortunate that you would get pleasant surprises, because not everybody does. But the thing is, when you're coming at it from a place of fear, you don't have that financial confidence as a business owner, right? And every business owner needs to understand what the financial health of their business is, and what's going on in their business, and how they make money in their business, so that when they make business decisions, they're making it with confidence and they're making decisions that are going to increase their profit. Now, I totally get that a lot of this conversation is overwhelming for a lot of business owners because it's scary, because you don't know. And the thing is, you don't know because nobody has taught you. It's not something to be in a place of shame about. It's not something to beat yourself up about. It's saying, okay, if I want to be a really good business owner and I want my business to succeed and get to the financial numbers that I want to get to, if I don't have the tools within my toolkit to do that, it's time for me to get help and get somebody to show me how to do this. Because when you invest the time and the energy it takes to learn this, and it's really not that hard because people think it's like just totally overwhelming, but I swear it's not that hard. But when you take the time and invest in yourself, you're not only getting an extremely profitable business, but you are feeling good about things. You've got financial confidence. Nobody can mess with you. You are the master of your business.
Wow. I love those last words. Have financial confidence and you're the master of your business, because ladies, that's why we went into business in the first place, right?
Exactly.
We want freedom, like time freedom and money freedom. And, if the kids or grandkids had an event, we didn't want to have to beg permission to get off. So, but you're right, because I know for me, when you're talking about golden handcuffs, when I was an attorney, whether as a trial attorney in a law firm or in-house as the director of HR and general counsel, when you're making these big dollars, you don't want to leave.
Exactly.
The point sometimes when you're like, wait a minute, there's a lot I'm sacrificing just to get the check, and I'm working all these hours. So ladies, if anybody out there, and I know I have some of you that are still in corporate, maybe you are that lawyer and you'd love to maybe open up your own place, put your own slate out, or doctors, and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll do this medical spa or something. It's scary, but it's nothing that you can't figure out. If you are an accountant or a professional or a lawyer, you passed the bar, you passed your exam, you're a CPA, you can do this. So I just wanted to piggyback that, because I used to be, as you said, fearful. And as I admitted, fearful. But now it's like you approach it with like, okay, I'm going to grab the bull by the horns, because I know that I am a CEO that's working her way up to 7 figures. So why in the world would I be afraid? So if anybody out there still has that fear, please do not give in to that. All right. So when we talked about profit margins, Melissa, I would love your input. Is there how do I say this? Like a general ballpark profit margin we should be shooting for in the world specifically of service-based business?
Yeah. Now, every industry is going to have different benchmarks. Like like restaurant industry would be very, very low profit margins. Business coaches, typically 50% profit margins. So those are very healthy profit margins. So depending for lawyers, doctors, and, whoever else, whatever professions there are out there, it's going to depend on the types of services that you're offering, how much, how many expenses go into offering those services. But typically you would want a minimum of a 20% profit margin.
Okay. Yeah. And I thought it would depend upon industry. So that's really good. And 50%, I guess I'd like to be closer to 60% myself, but that's good. Okay. I love it.
I mean, that's just an industry average. So if you get better than that, that's fantastic.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about wealth creation. And
so important.
Yeah. And I am a major women's advocate, but I am not one to say, woe is me as women, to say that the system out there is against us and we don't make enough, dollar for dollar. I'm not even going there, because I'm one that looks forward at opportunity. And I know that I can do whatever I set my mind to, like it's limitless. The Lord God can do all kinds of things that we can't even imagine. But wealth creation is so important. Talk to us a little bit about that and how the business helps to set us up in the way of, wealth generation without the obvious. I mean, that is the biggest financial asset we have, right?
Absolutely. And I love that you brought this up, because especially for women, this is sort of like an unfamiliar territory, right? So if you own your business, which most of us do, because we're small, we're private, like you lose your shares if you partner or you go public or whatever. So chances are you're going to own 100% of the shares of your business. And so what happens is as your business is growing and increasing in profit and reinvesting that profit into the business, your business is growing financially as this amazing asset. And because you own your business, not only is your business an asset that's separate from your personal account, but it does increase your personal net worth. So you have the opportunity to create as much or as little personal wealth as you want through your business. Because as a business owner, you can generate as much income as you want, right? And if you're a good business owner, you're going to make sure that you are creating profit in your business that you can either reinvest into your business to grow your business, or you can invest in other resources.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. So there's something that I see that women tend to do, and that is they look in terms of not really wealth creation. It's more like, okay, well, what do I need to pay the bills?
Yes.
And we don't seem to stretch and reach, and in my opinion, become that powerhouse CEO that God made us to be. So have you seen that as well?
Oh my God, I see it far too often. So, I really try to encourage my clients saying, why is it okay for you to just make enough to get your, to have ends meet? Why is it not that you want to have, vacations or, a vacation home or a fancy car, whatever it is that you're wishing for, right? Why are you not worth putting that time and investment into yourself to ensure that you get to reach your financial goals as well? But, quite often people don't even understand what their financial goals are. So when I start working with people, my first step is, let's talk about your money mindset and let's talk about the goals. What do you want out of life? And so often for women, we feel like, we're so busy serving other people, like our kids and our spouses and our parents and this and that we often forget about what we want. And you really need to take the time and say, you know what? I want this, X dollar amount of whatever. And it's okay, because if I'm going to work for it and I'm going to achieve it, I deserve it. Like, why not? Would a man ever sit there and say, well, I don't really want to buy that, so, or I'm not really worthy of that, so I'm just not going to bother? No. So we should do the same thing ourselves. We need to claim that space and say, you know what? There's no shame in being wealthy, and there's a lot you can do with money, right? You don't need to keep that money for yourself. If you've got some money mindset issues, or like, well, I feel very greedy if I make a lot of money. Well, you don't need to be greedy. You could give your money away. There's tons of charities that want your money. There's tons of people who might need your help. Your kids, your parents might need financial help. Whatever the case may be, it is a good feeling to have money and help others with it, with their financial situations.
Yeah, you're so right. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because women were made to be others focused.
Well, we weren't raised to think like that too, right?
Yeah, so that's true. Certainly I wasn't, from where my background, but I guess across the board, it was like, okay, you're going to get married and your husband is going to take care of all that, quote unquote, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, more women, and most women actually, statistics have shown that women are managing the household budget. We are doing all the purchasing. We are, driving the economy. But when it comes to investing in ourselves, we're not showing up for that. There's a huge disconnect there.
That is a huge disconnect. And I will say that when I was in the law firm, I was not alone being the wife making more than my husband.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think for certain professions, we tend to be the breadwinner, but even then, we tend to just want to give and make sure everybody else is taken care of. But so there is a lot of guilt around money somehow, or maybe in the way of the entrepreneurial space. Am I really worth it? And then I think Christian women like myself, right? We tend to have that other layer, like, based on, a misconstrued scripture that says money is evil. No, it says the love of money is the root of all evil. Or they'll say, well, Jesus was poor, so in order to be a good Christian, I need to be poor. But ladies, you need to hear this. Deuteronomy 8:18. It says, remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth. And we look at the Proverbs 31 woman, and I talk about her a lot. She's an amazing wife, mom, serial entrepreneur. And it specifically says in the Bible that she was profitable in what she did. So ladies, if you are listening and you're feeling at all guilty, here's the deal. Just as Melissa said, the more you make, the more great things you can do with it. And I tell my clients all the time, they're like, oh, well, my ideal client is up here, but there's this demographic that just doesn't have the money for me and what I can do. And I say, well, great. Then the more money you make, you can offer scholarships. You can do some pro bono work. So no matter how you slice it, profit is what business is all about.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you're not maintaining a steady profit in your business will go bankrupt.
Mm-hmm. Amen. And nonprofits. Here's the other thing. Well, maybe I'll do a nonprofit. Hold on a second. Here's a news flash. You need money and lots of it to get the work done that you need to get done.
Yeah.
So business, nonprofit is the same thing. Now, if you want to keep it a hobby, but I don't think anybody listening to this podcast is about that. But ladies, I hope that this discussion has opened your eyes to understand kind of a beginning of what you need to look at, that you need to consider the future and dream big. Go to God. Hey, Lord, what do you have for me? And then plan it and map it out. As we wrap up, I do want to talk about what you do for clients. Here you are with this wealth of knowledge, and I believe you can act as like a virtual CFO, a chief financial officer. So what does that look like in like the day-to-day? What would a client expect?
So as a virtual CFO, what I typically offer is for those very busy and income generating clients that they have somebody like me coming in doing their CFO work, which is typically, ensuring that the financial statements get generated, get read, the analysis is done, showing people, where their strengths are, what's going on in their business, any, issues coming up, financial strategies. If you're raising capital, if you're looking at, acquiring, taking on some debt, just getting that financial advice and guidance around that very, very high level, service. But as a virtual CFO, I also ensure that I've got the bookkeeping services to provide my clients. So it's not like they're, seeing a whole bunch of different financial advisors. They come to me, they get their bookkeeping done, they get me, face value with the analysis of what's going on in their business on a month-to-month basis. And then the tax return gets outsourced. So everything is done up to the tax return. The tax return gets outsourced because it's always good to have another professional checking your stuff. Also, the other thing I really focus on is ensuring that you protect your business as an asset. So ensuring that the internal controls are there so that there's no mishaps of theft or fraud within your business. I also teach clients how to take their earnings in their business and transfer it over to their personal wealth so that they are ensuring that they're, setting themselves up for retirement, early retirement, whatever they choose. So they've got that asset that can support them throughout their life, but also getting back to, creating those financial goals, ensuring that they can fund their financial goals through their business as well. So it's not, I don't just look at it as just your business. I look at it holistically as a business owner.
I love it. I love it. So just to this point, for me in working with a CFO, when I was in-house, that person was very strategic in the different products that we were involved in and the services to say, this one may not be something you want to go forward with, or this one we really need to lean into and maybe hire more sales staff for this. Is that the kind of real nitty gritty strategic advice that
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like we'll use the example of you want to go to $500,000 of course sales. Okay. We're going to map it out and figure out exactly how you're going to get there financially. There's just a whole, but I don't offer this just as a virtual CFO. I offer this for coaching clients as well. So for those who cannot, or are not at that level of virtual CFO services yet. So I offer I have courses that I offer, and then I also offer one-on-one coaching to help them understand where or what's going on in their business financially, how they can create more wealth in their business, how they can monitor things themselves, the KPIs to monitor themselves, how they can create that money within their business and transfer it over to their personal wealth as well. So one-on-one is just more intensive. They're learning. Virtual CFO is more the owner knows what's going on. They're not checking out of their business, because I will not work with people who are not looking at what's going on and reviewing everything with me. But I'm doing it for them to, free up their time.
Gotcha.
That they can spend more time, looking at what's going on in their business and generating revenue. But I am there to guide them.
Okay.
Ultimately, the CEO always makes the final decisions.
I love that. Thank you for clarifying that, because I didn't realize there was the virtual CFO and then there was a one-on-one aspect that was another service. So that's really, really great.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this time goes way too fast. Okay. We're nearing the end, and this is called the Joyful Scaling Podcast. And I love asking my guests, what is your best scaling tip?
My best scaling tip. Oh my God. It would have to always be know your numbers. Because if you're operating at a loss and you don't know that you're doing that, you're just driving yourself into the ground, right? So if you want to grow your business, you really need to know your numbers so that you can allow yourself to grow, so that you can make that profit, reinvest it in your business and allow it to grow. So that is my number one tip to people. It's always, first thing, you make your sales. Second thing, come find me and learn how to manage your money.
I love it. That's so good. By the way, a side point, when you were talking about moving the dollars from the business asset over to the personal, I'm thinking that sounds like investment. So I'm curious, do you have sources of financial planners and things like that? Because that's not in your bailiwick, but I was curious if you had those connections.
Absolutely. I have connections with tax accountants, tax attorneys, financial advisors. When I'm talking about taking your money out of your business into your personal account, you're also going to have to think about tax saving strategies. There's tons of things that you need to know, and you need to get guided on that, because if you just take the money out, well, you're getting taxed at a high rate and you haven't saved yourself any money whatsoever. So investing in those professionals is absolutely worth it as well. I teach the basics of understanding, investment, understanding what you can do with your money, but I also have amazing connections and I refer my clients to professionals when they need them.
Awesome. Beautiful. All right. And I understand you are gracious enough to offer our listeners a free money course, how to pay yourself in your small business. So tell us about it.
Yes, absolutely. So I put together a little course. It's a mini course. I think it's about 20 minutes long, and it's free. So, and this is the pain point that I hear from so many clients is they don't know how to pay themselves when their business is making, you've got irregular revenue months, right? So sign up for this course. It'll take you through. I've got spreadsheets and the video and templates for you to use and understand how you're going to pay yourself within your business, regardless of how your revenue fluctuates.
That's amazing. I'm going to put all the links into the show notes. And speaking of links, where can people find you? What's the best place to find you online?
The best place to find me is melissahoustoncpa.com. Now, this is what I typically use for my writing sort of profession. So this is where my Forbes and stuff will find me. And then I do my own blog at thebusinesssociety.co. So in that blog, there's a lot of resources for personal finance, business finance, and how to build a business. So it's all there, and it's connected to my Business Society community and my Business Society podcast.
Wow. Amazing. You are a wealth of
Thank
knowledge
you so much.
that every thriving, female CEO needs. So thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, ladies, if you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another one. And also, if you would take a moment and leave a rating and a review, it'd be very, very appreciated. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.